permitted by the Lieutenant Governor's Office. It affords an opportunity again for impacted entities to provide comment, and it requires a minimum of 16 days to review. The review can take longer as deemed necessary by CSI. And the second step in the rulemaking process is if the agency receives a recommendation from CSI. If CSI does not have any suggestions, it sends a memo to the agency acknowledging that its review is complete. The agency must respond acknowledging receipt of the memo. And if changes were made based on the recommendation of CSI, those changes must be included in the agency's response. The third step in the process is to file rules, with which referred to as the Joint Committee on Agency Rule Review, and that's abbreviated as JCAR. Between the 30 and 41st days after the rules have been filed with JCAR, each agency has to hold a public JCAR hearing. This JCAR hearing allows for additional input on rules. All public notices, in this case, will be posted at the medicalmarijuana.ohio.gov website, and public hearings and notices of proposed rules will be posted on the Register of Ohio's site, which is www.registerofohio.state.oh.us. The fifth step in the rulemaking process is a JCAR review consisting of a 10-member legislative panel. And this panel review is limited to the scope of these 6 questions. Do the rules exceed the agency's statutory authority? Do the rules conflict with an existing rule of that agency or of another state agency? Do the rules conflict with legislative intent? Has the rulemaking agency prepared a complete and accurate rule summary and fiscal analysis of the proposed rule, amendment, or rescission? Has the rulemaking agency met the incorporation by reference standards for text or other materials as stated in revised code sections 121.72, 121.75, or 121.76, and if the rule has an adverse impact on business, which is defined in revised code section 1752, that the rulemaking agency has demonstrated through the business impact analysis, the CSI recommendations, and the agency's memorandum in response to CSI recommendations, that the rule's regulatory intent justifies its adverse impact on business. And then the final step, once JCAR review and approval are complete, is that rules are final filed. And the entire JCAR process takes a minimum of 76 days. And I should say that this process is exclusive of the time that the pharmacy board and medical board will also be required to use to run these rules, to have these rules approved by their boards.
Thanks, Erin. So that's the general process flow. We have a handout available, I think we talked about this morning, that gives a little more detail behind that, lots of web access as well. Any questions for Erin around the process, around the rules making? Okay.
Can I ask just a quick, for purposes of our group, will we always be just provided the rules the day of the meeting? Is it possible to see the rules in advance so we can have a more robust discussion as a group about them since we're not going to read them in advance?
I think we can, we'll talk about how we can make that possible. I understand the concern. We're also rapidly trying to wrap up our work as well, so there's a delicate balance there. We'll do our best.
Okay. So as we kicked off this morning, we talked about that the advisory committee is the first stop for the control program rules. And today we're going to take a look at those first set of rules. As a reminder to the public in attendance, these rules will be available for review and comment as early as tomorrow on the marijuana website. And then there will be posted to the various rulemaking procedures that you saw Aaron go through. So be watchful for those as your opportunity to provide direct comments as a member of the public. We're going to ask Justin Hunt now to go ahead with the Department of Commerce's first set of rules around the cultivators. I'll remind the committee again to
Can I get
please...
you to turn on the lights, please? Thank you.
Okay. We'll take questions on the rule sets at the end of the presentation, but feel free to mark your copies or take notes to stack up your questions for Justin as they come out. And it's all yours.
Well, thank you. While Rachel passes those out, I wondered why they saved the most exciting part for last, but then I saw it was 78 degrees on November 1st, and you have rules and ethics in the morning, so we need something to keep you around. So I appreciate you for being here today. For those that I have met, it's good seeing you. For those that I have not, I look forward to working with you as we look through this rules draft. That's what this is. And we collect feedback. We listen to your different perspectives. 14 people with different backgrounds. So I think we're in a great place to look at what we have right now, make changes that make sense for the program, and come up with the best set of rules that we can submit through the rulemaking process. I'd also like to say I'm here presenting on behalf of Commerce, but there were a lot of people that were involved with this initial draft set, and a thank you to them, because starting an industry from scratch is no easy task. It takes a lot of different people, a lot of helping hands, and everybody's been on board since we were tasked with this responsibility. So with that in mind, we did have different people helping, but we also spoke with a lot of industry experts, and we are the 25th state to go forward with this. And so we have the luxury of seeing how other states maybe didn't do things properly or would have done them differently, and we can incorporate that into our program. So going right into the rules, what you'll notice is right off the bat we have a shared definition section, something we thought was important just so that we have some consistency with the terminology that will be used throughout the different rule sections. And again, we will see a lot of these definitions used by not only Commerce, but also by the Pharmacy Board and the Medical Board. Next slide talks about provisional licenses. And the language in the rule states that the department may issue up to 12 level 1 and 6 level 2 provisional licenses prior to September 8, 2018, which is the effective date of the program. Level 1, permitted to operate a 15,000 square footage marijuana cultivation area, with level 2 provisional licenses permitted to operate a 1,600 square footage medical marijuana cultivation area. After that September 8, 2018, the rules offer the director with some discretion to issue additional provisional licenses based on the state's population and the patient population and demand for medical marijuana. And it also includes a limitation of 1 cultivator license for a person in Ohio. License applications in review. So the rules set forth a baseline for the application criteria that we will look at when evaluating the applicants for a cultivator license. It will cover many areas, but of significant importance will be an operations plan, which covers the cultivation, harvesting, packaging of the medical marijuana. A security plan, which will look at not only the perimeter security and the security of the facility itself, but also the technology measures that we want to see in place so that we can properly regulate and make sure that these facilities are doing what they need to be doing. A quality assurance plan, which will touch on the consistency and the quality of the product that will ultimately be in the patient's hands. And a financial plan that supports the facility that is proposed and the operational requirements of that facility. The rules also set forth a scoring rubric that will ensure an unbiased, impartial review of every application that is submitted, and it establishes the financial requirements that will allow for the effective implementation of the submitted applications. With respect to issuance and renewal, an applicant that is awarded or issued a provisional license will have 9 months from the issuance of that award, or from the issuance of the provisional license, to meet the conditions in the application and in the rule, and then pass an inspection, which would lead to the issuance of a certificate of operation. A cultivator cannot grow until that certificate of operation is issued, and the rules include a process that will be followed for all provisional licensees that either meet that inspection and are issued the certificate of operation, or do not pass the inspection and have to do some additional work in order to receive that certificate of operation. From a renewal standpoint, the rules outline the process for renewal of the certificate of operation. Specifically, it states that if not reviewed before the expiration of the certificate of operation, it will be suspended for 30 days and then revoked. Transfers of ownerships or locations. With respect to a provisional license, they are prohibited. For a certificate of operation, there are grounds set forth in the rule and the process that's followed if there is a change in ownership or location. And that process will vary depending on the percentage of ownership that will change as a result of the proposed structure. It also develops a process for change in location. And what you'll see there in the rules is that the change in location must occur in the same designated territory where the certificate of operation was awarded. Again, that's to ensure access to the medical marijuana and to help with the business operations. So cultivator operations, that wraps up a lot of the sections on the actual licenses for these cultivators. The next set of rules covers the operations, and that includes everything from packaging and labeling, inventory and storage, security, quality assurance, recording and reporting, waste disposal, among other things. Packaging and labeling. Within rule, we establish the requirements and standards for the packaging and labeling of medical marijuana that applies to cultivators. Keep in mind that there will be other standards that may be set for processors and dispensaries that handle the medical marijuana, that make products and then sell it to patients at the dispensaries. It provides the department with enforcement authority if anyone knowingly or intentionally alters or destroys a package or label. And that would apply at the facility itself or in transit when it is being transported from a cultivator to a processor to a testing lab, or to a dispensary. And it also prohibits the use of cartoons or graphics not approved by the department, and something we focus there is the attractive to children piece, which we saw in House Bill 523. Inventory, control, and storage. Sets the requirements that need to be met for a seed-to-sale inventory tracking system, including information that will be necessary for plant tags. It outlines the inventory control standards and the measures, as well as the reporting requirements. And one of the things we'll be looking closely at as we obtain feedback on this provision is the capabilities of that seed-to-sale system, and where we don't want to force them to submit things that are burdensome because we already have that information available via technology. So we'll be monitoring that closely. And we will also require a manual inventory of medical marijuana at the facility on an annual basis. The technology has come a long way, but at least on an annual basis, we want to make sure that what they're reporting in their systems actually matches up with the physical plant. Security, as I mentioned, will be divided into the physical security of the location itself, dealing with fencing, proper lighting, locked doors, restricted access, safes, etc. And then the technology security and what we want to see with respect to alarm systems, proper notification of law enforcement if there is a breach in security, video cameras, silent alarms, and other technology security measures. It also sets the standards for video recording technology and the alarm technology, specifically making sure that there is the capability for the state to access the live camera feeds that are monitoring these facilities that are cultivating marijuana. And like I mentioned, it will also notify the department and law enforcement of breaches in security. Quality assurance plan. Again, here we are looking at the quality and the consistency of the product, and we will require that this be submitted as part of the cultivator's license application. We're going to look at things which include the equipment that's actually at the facility itself, the cleanliness of the facility and how they propose upkeeping the facility, and also any pesticides, fertilizer, fungicide, other growth mediums that may be used on the marijuana at the facility. And we'll have that cleanliness standard for, again, the entire facility, the equipment, as well as any resources that will be used in the cultivation process. Records and reporting. The rules have a 5-year retention policy For books and most records of the cultivator, then that would apply to physical records that are at the location, and also the records that will be created and stored within the seed to sale system or the inventory tracking system that the facilities may choose to use. It requires record keeping of various types of records, including disposal, sales, a transportation log, test samples and the procedures around the collection of those samples, security, inventory tracking, finances, and employee records. Waste disposal. This sets the standard for the disposal of what we call medical marijuana waste and what information must be reported for all disposals. It requires that each disposal have a log that will include what's called a level 1 key employee that oversees the disposal. It will have the weight of the disposal, the time of day, and any other information that the department would deem necessary to kind of monitor the disposal of medical marijuana. It also requires disposal in accordance with federal and state law pertaining to other categories of waste. Inspections and testing. Establishes the scope of inspections and the different inspections by the department, including what was covered back when we